Welcome to The Truth is Funny, Shift Happens, with Colette Marie Stefan, inspiring shift on Transformation Talk Radio, gracing the airways every Wednesday at 8 a.m. Pacific since 2013. And we're live on Facebook, providing nuggets of wisdom, tales from the vector, and energetic upgrades to lift you, shift you, and empower you to ride the wave of infinite potential. Do you have a problem? It is never what you think it is. Logical questions require creative solutions. Colette is a leading expert in the field of quantum energetic transformation. Learn to identify the usual energetic suspects and major accomplices to unveil another layer preventing you from living your authentic desires. You are a blank canvas. May as well paint a rainbow. We'd love to hear from you. Call 1-800-930-2819.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I'm your host, Caleb Matthews, today. For those of you who recognize me and say, hey, I recognize that guy. He was just on the show very recently. You are correct. Here I am again on the Truth is Funny Transformation Talk Radio. Thank you so much for my amazing assistant, Malia, who's standing by today, just doing all the soundboards and the technology, and for Kim Hunt and Dr. Pat and everybody on the show. Of course, my friend Colette, who has me on here to speak. Thankful for all of you who put this work together. So we're going to get into some really juicy topics today, some really good truth is funny conversations. There's going to be some fun and some joy, and also some heavy revelation as well too, which is great. The universal law of sowing and reaping, that is the topic today. So there's a lot going on in our economy, our world economy, global economy, local economy, and of course, economic lives for individuals, for you and I, where there's this principle, this ancient principle that goes back thousands of years to the Hebraic way and method, which is the method I follow, but doing the universal law of sowing and reaping. So giving out, so depositing, withdrawing, and sowing and reaping, casting bread upon the waters, and the waters returning them to you. So we're going to get into some good stuff. So that's going to cover most of our time, probably about 60-70% of our time. And then in the latter half of the show, after our break, going to get into some questions, dream interpretations. I know that one of the producers has a dream that they want interpreted today, would like to have interpretation. So we're going to leave room for that. And then as well as maybe one or two others if time permits, and there are people on the call, wherever you're calling from, listening to, who want to have their dreams interpreted, stand by, and then Malia will take your requests if you want to call in or chat in. We can make room for that in the last 15 or 20 minutes as time permits. So we are on The Truth is Funny. And of course, we like to crack some jokes once in a while, get you laughing and just smiling. So I've got one this morning that actually ties into our topic of conversation. So let's go here with me. An angel appears in a puff of smoke to a man and says to him, because you have lived a good life, good and virtuous life, I can offer you a gift. You can be the most handsome man in the world, or you can have infinite wisdom, or you can have limitless wealth. Reflecting, the man says, I'll take the wisdom. Wisdom is yours, says the angel. And the angel goes. And after the angel goes, the man thinks about it as the angel leaves in a puff of smoke and thinks, I should have taken the wealth. So he lost his wisdom pretty quick because he should have taken the wealth. So that is a lesson there. So just a little bit of a joke there. So let us get back into the universal law of sowing and reaping here. Refresher of what is MPA, so multiple perspective advantage. You and I have talked about this. I've talked about this with you over the last weeks and months and year of MPA. Many of you have heard me use this term over and over again, but it's really, really prevalent, to what we're talking about today, and also into dream interpretation, stepping back from the details and taking a look at the wider, bigger lens and the bigger picture. Think about it and imagine yourself sitting in the optometrist chair, and they have that eye, kind of like aviator goggles, white apparatus that they push towards you, and then you lean forward and put your chin on the rest, and then they flick the lenses and they ask you, what do you see in front of you? And then your vision becomes more and more clear depending on what lens the optometrist puts in front of your eyes. That is really the way multiple MPA works, multiple perspective advantage. The details are, you're in the optometrist's office, you're in the chair, you've got that apparatus in your eyes, you've got the wall with the alphabet, or at least some of the letters of the alphabet in front of you. Those are the details. But the MPA, the multiple perspective advantage, is the lens. It's getting above the details of the situation and looking into a different perspective, into what is outside of the actual immediate details. And that's the way that we are in life. In life, there are the details. There are the fact that we've got to get up every day, go to work, 5 days a week for most of us, or part-time, or whatever you and I have. Have to get up, have breakfast, coffee, walk the dog, go to the gym maybe before, and then go to work and go to work and go to work. And then we come back from work and we return to our family or our friends or our housemates, have another meal, get our taxes ready or our monthly bill payments ready, and we get paid. And life is can be really, really short in that way of going to work, eating, sleeping, waking up, being nourished, being healthy, making money, and then paying the money to the government or to your bills, and that can be about it. But outside of that sphere is the MPA, the multiple perspective advantage. What is our higher power saying? What is the creator saying to us? What is the God complex of what is in our day-to-day lives that is going to speak to us and also to others on what is going on? What does the creator think? Let's look at what the higher power says. And specifically for me, Jesus, the way, the creator, I believe Jesus Christ is the way, the truth, the life. That is my gate, my medium. Let's look at what a higher power Jesus talks about. So Jesus, thousands of years ago, walked the earth with his disciples, and the way that he spoke to his disciples was in parables, and that is really how we're going to get into the universal law of sowing and reaping. Jesus spoke to his disciples in parables. They were allegories, metaphors, stories, almost like Shakespearean tales and little mini stories that he would share with the crowds that would come to hear him speak and teach. And his disciples were confused. They were very baffled because they were thinking on the natural plane, as if they were sitting in synagogue or they were sitting in class, listening to the teacher speak. And they were looking for more of literal terms than metaphoric terms. So the disciples would approach Jesus over the weeks and the months and the years, and they would ask him, why do you speak in parables and riddles and mysteries to the crowds? Why do you not speak in plain speech? Plainly, why don't you just tell them plainly what your intentions are, what you want to do, and what do you want in followers? But Jesus said to his disciples, I speak to them in parables and riddles because they do not know the mysteries of the kingdom of heaven, but for you it is to make known the mysteries of the kingdom of heaven. I speak to you plainly. What does he mean? Well, we have to look at the disciples. The disciples, they gave up lands, they gave up homes, they gave up careers, professions, they gave up their normal lives to follow Jesus, and they paid a significant cost. And that's really what Jesus was putting his finger on, and the calling there. So let's take a look at that. He really wanted the crowds to seek, and he wanted to hide revelation in these parables so that people would really want to pursue, strive to seek and labor to find the truth, just like precious gems, just like gold mining, gold panning. When you're panning for gold in the river and you're in there knee deep when the river's flowing around your feet and the dirt and the muck and your gum boots and you're panning for gold. I don't know if any of you have ever panned for gold or know of people who pan for gold. It's tough work. It's really tough work to get all the grit, all the grime off, and to have those shining gold nuggets underneath all that dirt and that muck, and just digging and panning and doing that for hours and hours. That's kind of a parable, a metaphor, a picture of how in life we have to go through the muck, the quagmire, and really the push through the crowds, push through um, the mystery of what life is to find the actual jewel and the gem. That's really what it is. And then also mining for gold, going underground, going in the darkness and finding precious gems and stones, or going down deep below the surface of the ocean and finding the pearls. Pearls are formed in very tough environments. I'm not sure if you know or are aware of how pearls are formed, but pearls, there's a lot of friction, there's a lot of rubbing up against, there's a lot of tension, there's a lot of hardship that a pearl has to go through before it's actually formed. That is what Jesus was getting at, and that is what we're getting at here. That's what I'm proposing to you is that as we're forming that character, as we're forming that substance, as we're forming that container to be able to hold the seed that's going to come, the bread that's going to come from the waters, these are the things we have to go through to order to be able to understand the parables of what life is going to throw our way, which is why Jesus spoke in the parables of the reaping and the sowing, of the sower and the seed. So Jesus made it very difficult for people to understand. And the more that we go through trials, the more that we go through testing, the more that we go through these struggles, the more beautiful the result. So you might be thinking about this thinking, Caleb, what does this have to do with me? Bring it across the principalizing bridge, Caleb. Bring it home to me. Bring this story about Jesus and his disciples to me. What does this mean to me? Well, I'm going to tell you what it means. That we have to be willing to go through those times of character and testing. And that's really what I talked about last time with Joseph, really in the spirit of innovation of character through tough and turbulent times. That was my topic last week or the week before, I can't remember, but that really is the container. Without character, without root, without substance, for those of you who are landscapers or love to work in your garden, without root, without depth, a plant, a seed, a tree, just a garden cannot grow without root. We cannot grow. We cannot flourish. We cannot be abundant people, men and women. We cannot be abundant humans in life, in this existence on the earth, with our higher power, with our creator, walking with God, taking dominion over the earth without root, without character, without substance. And that's really what we need to be able to hold these parables, these mysteries, these pearls, these nuggets of wisdom that we're going to have come our way, reaping as we're willing to sow our time, our lives. So this is really what we're supposed to go through, trials and struggles. The more we go through this, the more beautiful the result, because it brings forth character and integrity. So one of the principles that one of my spiritual teachers, he's now gone on to the cloud of witnesses. He's in heaven watching me, cheering me on. But one of my teachers years ago, he taught me this principle. He taught his class this principle, and also people who he discipled and he mentored and he trained, is that in the mountaintop experience in life that you and I are going to have is going to be in direct proportion to the valleys that are in our lives. What does that mean? Well, valleys, we have to be willing to walk in the valley and the lonely places, the dark places, and the tough times, and just really where things aren't really, truth is funny. It's very tough, but the mountaintop, we're laughing, we're cheering, we're smiling, we're there, we're hooray, I've done it. Those glorious mountaintop Instagram moments are just, oh, look at this, look at guys, I made it, I've done it, I've made this accomplishment, I've reached this goal, I've climbed this mountain, I've bought that new house, I've got that new job, I've really gotten that raise at work, or I've really been able to accelerate and make my wealth and my investments grow and just really work for me. A lot of people love to share the stories at the end. Hey, here's my story of reaping, here's my story. But the sowing, the tough times, the going through the valley, walking alone with you and God and the creator, you and your higher power, you and Jesus, you walking in that place of, hey, this is me alone. There's not a lot of people cheering me on right now. Those are the times of testing and of tribulation and of character development that will get you to the mountaintop, because the lower the valley is the direct proportionate to the height of the mountaintop experience you are going to have. The valley is going to determine the mountain. So I want to get into a personal story because I always like to apply my topics of conversation, this one being the universal law of sowing and reaping, the parables. We've been talking about Jesus, been talking about the parables, how he's been speaking to his disciples and how to package that, how to embrace the character, the tough times, development of that container to hold that, and why the disciples had to go through that. And now I'm going to share with you an actual story that happened in my life, my family's life, over 20 years ago. So 20 years ago, I was in my teenage years. I lived in Calgary, Alberta, and lived with my parents, homeschooled by my parents. In that place, our family sowed financially. We gave into this Christian ministry that was doing a lot of good work for people overseas, but also locally as well too. That was giving and was a very generous ministry organization. And there is a man that was running that organization. He still runs that organization today. That is a prophet, and somebody who, what is a prophet, Caleb? Somebody that sees in the spirit, somebody that hears in visionary form and dreams, and it really had a direct antenna, direct line to his higher power, to God. And there's a lot of sowing and reaping principles that he was teaching on, where just some amazing things were happening in his life, and his family's life, his ministry's life, and people around him. So our family's like, well, let's sow into him. So we sowed into him. We gave generously, and I'm not going to get into, all that details, but we did. And so we said to him, we said, Charlie, we said, would you and your son, because him and his son had started some soaking CDs, some meditation CDs, and he was bringing his young son, who was probably about 16, 17, 18 years old at the time, a few years older than I was. So I was about, 20 years ago for me, gosh, that I would have been 13 or 14 years old. So I was very young and training in the seer realm, of the revelatory realm of seeing in the spirit, and of this principle of character development and of learning how to honor the prophets to receive the prophet's reward. And so Charlie, I really believe, my family believe, he is a prophet. And so, but Charlie had a son named Sammy. And so Sammy was going to he was really doing things with his father, of learning how to see in the spirit, of how to reap and sow. And he was a young seer in training in character development with his father. And they did a lot of soaking CDs and meditation CDs. And one of the teachings they had was called the Jacob generation, which was about the Hebraic message of the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, how God is intergenerational, how the father and the son would bless each other. The son would bless the father, and the father would bless the son. So that there's that interconnected family message. And I was like, wow, this is great. I turned to my mom and dad and I was like, this is awesome. So one of my mom's ideas was, okay, let's honor the prophets and the prophets' reward and invite them over for dinner. And so when we serve them, she was teaching me these principles: is as you serve, as you go low into that valley we talked about, as you serve and as you give yourself to the prophet's reward and the prophet and make room for that, you're going to receive the prophet's reward. You're going to reap that. And so we extended the invitation out to both Charlie and his son. So Charlie came, but his son didn't. His son had the option of coming for dinner, and he said he would come according to his father, but then he ended up going away with his friends to visit and have like a guy time or a teenager time, and he missed quite an opportunity. So here's where the opportunity is going to go into my story. Before Charlie came and we thought his son was going to come, my mother turned to me and said, let's set out our finest silverware, stuff that we only use for special occasions like Easter, Thanksgiving, Christmas dinner, special like birthdays or events, or special people that were hosting really special guests. It was our finest cutlery, our finest dining room that was only ever used for when we had high profile guests or high profile events. Silverware, cutlery, plates, that was gifts that my parents received when they were married years and years before, really high-end stuff. We had all the placemats, we had all the tables, we had the chairs, everything vacuumed in the room. Like, it made it look like fit for a king and prince. So we had everything laid out. And then my mother said, you know what, Caleb, take this check. And so she made out a check for $1,000 and said, put that $1,000 underneath that plate there. And that plate, don't let anybody else sit at the table. Don't let Charlie sit there, have him sit somewhere else, but leave that plate and that spot for Charlie's son, Sammy. Do not let anybody sit there. Don't sit there yourself. I won't sit there. John won't sit there. Your father won't sit there. Sorry. Charlie won't sit there. That's only for Sammy if Sammy comes. And so I was really excited to host them, because I would really want to see this blessing of the Jacob generation, the father and son, the son blessing the father blessing the son, united as one according to the message I'd in that meditation CD. I was really excited to see a young seer in training. I was like, man, he's going to pass this test. He's going to get that $1,000. Like for me, back then as a 13, 14-year-old, $1,000 was absolutely massive. Like I couldn't even imagine that. 3 minutes till break. Good. A young seer in training. So go here with me as a 14-year-old. I think that's where I was. You may be at an old or a young age in life, different places in life. I want you to go there with me as the 14-year-old. I want to tell you what the table looked like, how the placemat was. As I said before, it was beautiful. It was set for a king and queen. We had the decor of the food. It's hardly used for anything. It was just pristine condition. Everything there was just finely combed. And it was there. And as at 14 years old, I was more worried about, was I going to drop the food when I was serving? Because I was like the butler and I was serving Charlie's table and I was serving them. I was thinking, okay, at any moment now that door is going to fling open and Sammy's going to say, I'm sorry, I was late, but I am. But he never came. He never came. Charlie was there. We had the conversation. We had a beautiful dinner with the family and then he left. But Sammy never came and he didn't pass his test. The son did not pass his character test that night. He didn't show up, and the $1,000 stayed under his plate all night long until late that evening when we vacuumed the room, we cleared the plate away. I sighed and looked at my mom. My mom looked at me and said, well, I guess he didn't pass his test. He did not pass. He did not fulfill his obligation that he said he was going to come. He did not honor the generational message in that moment. And to this day, I think he still does not know that story. And we promised we would never share that. But that's a development character lesson he's going to look back on from the portals of heaven one day and say, man, I blew it. So as we go into our break, because we're almost at our halfway point, how many times have we missed blessing and increase and sowing and reaping moments because of a lack of character and a lack of container to hold God's increase, to hold our higher powers increase? We can't discern the moment because we're looking in the natural world. We're looking through that lens of detail. We're not looking through the MPA, the multiple perspective advantage. And we're not looking by the Spirit like that young man who chose worldly friends and a night out, which it wasn't an evil thing, but it was not the best thing in comparison to what he could have had by honoring his commitment to come for dinner at our house. So that's what I want to get into. So we'll go into our break, but just think about that. Think about the heavenly mystery and the spiritual economy and the heavenly exchange and the trading. There is that trading of sowing and reaping. We have to sow our character, sow our lives, sow our commitment, and we reap that heavenly whirlwind, that harvest that's going to really come to us. But we have to be willing to be childlike and go into the foolish places of, this doesn't make sense to me. This looks like a simple family dinner. This looks like a humble abode. This doesn't look glamorous, but those are the moments where we're going to be tested by our higher power, by God, by Creator, by Jesus. So we're going to go into a break and then we're going to come back from the break. So stick with me, ladies and gentlemen, and we'll be back in a few moments. Thanks. All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for returning with me from the break. So the next 10 or 15 minutes, we're going to go into the bulk of my message. And then after this, then we're going to open up for some dream interpretation because I know Jessica is standing by, Jessica Henderson from Transformation Talk Radio, to share a dream that she had. And we can get into some awesome dream interpretations. But for the next 10 or 15 minutes, I'm going to get into the bulk of my message, the universal principle of sowing and reaping, because all that was built up, if you can believe it, what I was talking about there before. So there is a hidden and spiritual economy where there's a heavenly exchange and trading. There's a good exchange and there's a bad exchange. There's a religious exchange, an institutional exchange, a worldly religious system through the Constantinian system. So through the organized religious system, through the powers that be, there is a bad economic exchange, and then there is a good one. And the good exchange, the heavenly exchange, is what we're speaking about. So I'll rattle off some text here for you really quickly, just to build up my bulk of my message. So Ecclesiastes 11:1 says, "Send your grain across the seas, and in its profits, and in its time, its profits will flow back to you." Matthew 13:8, "Other seed fell on good soil and produced crops, some 100, some 60, some 30-fold." Multiplication, acceleration. And of course, the parable of the sower, Matthew 13:4, "Behold, a sower went out to sow, and as he sowed, some seed fell along the path, and the birds came and devoured it." Other seed fell on rocky ground where it did not have much soil, and it immediately sprang up since it had no depth of soil. Some seed fell along the path and the birds came and devoured it. So there are different places in this parable where seed fell among good soil, it fell among rocky soil, it fell among the path, and it fell on rocky ground. It fell in different places. And we're getting back into NPA, and this is going to really segue really well into my dream interpretation with Jessica in just about 10 minutes here. But getting back up into NPA, using the principles of dream interpretation, looking at this principle as if it were a dream. What is the ground? What is the birds? What is the different ground types? What is the seed? We say in my household, if this were a dream, what it would be saying to us. We're going to go into a spiritual reading right now. So step back here for a minute and think about your life. Think about your morning, your afternoon, your evening. Think about what you've done that may be unusual. So not the usual things, but the unusual things that come across your path on a day-to-day basis. And interpreting that as if it were a dream speaking and saying something to you. Using life examples. Just like the parable of the sower, just like the seed on the ground, just like the seed on the rocky ground, just like the seed where the birds came. So there's all these different characters and what they could be saying positively, negatively, encouraging or correctionally. There's so many different types of dreams. There are dozens and dozens of different dream interpretation types. We won't get into all that today, but just to give you an idea, it's a complex maze. It's a beautiful puzzle in a world where there's a lot being said. There's a lot of sowing and reaping. There's a lot of messages being spoken through these parables of your dreams of the night season. So some funny things, for example, I'll use an example from my own life. So a year ago, actually not months ago, a year ago last summer, I was helping a customer out at my store. I work for TELUS. I'm a telecommunications salesperson. So I sell cell phones, TV, internet, home communications, business communications. So I was just doing my job, my usual job at my desk. And I'm helping my customer out. My customer walks in with a golden retriever. And the golden retriever just, my family calls it slippering. So slippers out on the floor and just flops on the floor. It just looks like a big fat slipper on the floor. And it's got its paws out and its feet out and its chin on the floor. It's just waiting for its master until his master's done his transaction with me. But then as I'm helping the dog's owner, then all of a sudden about 10 minutes into me helping set the phone up, I feel this nuzzle between my two knees. And it's the dog. The golden retriever has come up to my desk and put its head between my two knees and it's wagging its tail and it's smiling, waiting to be petted. And I was just like, oh, that's so cute. That's so beautiful. And it just would come back time and time again. And it would just come and it would just sit there and just wait to be petted. And after it got petted, it would just wag its tail even more ferociously and smile and just rub its fur up against my knee. And that was about it. So if I had that as a dream, then I would interpret that in a really different light than daytime. I could just nuzzle that off to being, oh, that was just a dog that came to say hello and that was it. But I'm not somebody who believes that there's something to be said in everything, but in most things. And there's a lot of things in our lives, in your life, in my life, where there is a constant sowing of the creator, of our higher power, of God, of Jesus, of sowing these messages in our life that we can reap in our day-to-day lives, just like the disciples with the parables were reaping the benefits from the master because they were following Jesus in his every step and they were given their lives. They were sowing their lives so that they could reap the benefits of the mysteries of the kingdom of heaven, the heavenly exchange, the divine trading floor, the divine exchange, the greatest stock exchange in the history of mankind. And so I want you to think about that. Step back for a moment here as an exercise. We're going to get into an exercise, and then we're going to get into some dream interpretation here, Jessica, and some of our other callers. But just like the parable of the seed, just like the seed being sown in the different soil, the rocky soil, the good soil, the ground, the path, and the birds, think about your life and think about an example in your life that could have happened to you this week, maybe a few months ago, maybe last year, maybe years ago, and think of something that was more not you say everything that you see in your day to day and think, okay, what could have God been saying to me there? What could my higher power be speaking to me there? What was happening when I was going for a walk and I saw that eagle land on the tree and flap its wings and then fly away? What was happening when I was there sitting in the park and then all of a sudden I heard a chorus of birds singing? Or what happened there when I was just sitting on the deck and all of a sudden a gust of wind picked up and caused the wind chimes to tinkle in such a certain way that it reminded you of something in your childhood? Like, think of different sounds and pictures and presentations that are of happenings and events that are not really normal, but more of, okay, this isn't something I see every day. And think about that and step back from it and say, what could my higher power be saying to me right now in this situation? So think about that, write that down, and maybe just try to dissect it like a big puzzle and see what your higher power, what the creator, what God could be saying to you in that moment. So I'm going to unpackage my golden retriever experience and let you know of, okay, there are nuggets here. Because you may think, okay, golden retriever, just a friendly dog, just saying hello to his master, and that's about it. Here's how I'm going to interpret that. My higher power, Jesus, God, is speaking to me, Caleb Matthews, in my day-to-day work, in my mundane daily life, to be aware of the faithfulness of heaven, the faithfulness of God, that is just like a golden retriever, just a loyal golden friend. And don't forget, in the middle of work, in the middle of the busyness and the cares of life, to stop and admire the happiness and the joy and the faithfulness of God in those moments. And don't forget to have playtime and not always be caught up in work, not always be caught up in wanting to get to the next destination. And remember the joy, the playtime, the childlikeness of curling up like a golden retriever does on the ground, like a slipper, and just let God love you as a friend, like a loyal friend, like a golden retriever. And also emphasis and focus on prayer, because the golden retriever's nose and his head was whacking on my knees, and knees is usually a picture of going on your knees and praying and really just devoting and focusing on God. So that is what I can dissect from that golden retriever experience. So think about those other experiences, think about those parables, think about those allegories, those life metaphors of really just reaping what heaven is sowing, and at the same time sow yourself into that universal law of, I'm going to get into that character, I'm going to get into that depth, I'm going to get into pursuing these mysteries and going past my intellect, past thinking literally, and going into, okay, I'm going to think as a parable, as life speaking to me as a picture in my life, my day-to-day life, but also in my night life as well. So that's awesome. That's what I wanted to cover today. That universal law of sowing and reaping, that exchange, that heavenly exchange, whether you're exchanging your life, your character, whether you're looking for a way to be able to sow into, to honor heaven in your life. And giving, a lot of time people think of giving as, oh, you have to give this bundle of money to this organization. That's not what I mean at all. But find a way to give of yourself, give of time, because time is a currency. Give time to, these parables, these allegories, these metaphors, and these principles, and give of your time to that. Or give of your time to an organization like special needs, or time of volunteer time with people who are less fortunate. But find a gap in your community. So this is going to be my challenge to you. And then we're going to get into Jess's dream and have her call in. Here's my challenge to you. Find the area that you want increase on in your life, the area that you want to reap from, and sow into an area that you really want to reap from. So what do I mean by that? Well, say you've got a family member or you've got people that you know that have special needs, and that maybe their needs aren't being cared for, or they're struggling, or they're going through something where they need support. So I would say, and I would suggest, to sow your life and sow your time into special needs community, and give of your time, volunteer time, events, and pouring yourself into that. By sowing into that, you're going to reap that heavenly blessing on your life and what is important to you. Um, maybe you've got an animal sanctuary in your farm, and your heart is for the animals, and you've got needs there. Well, maybe sow your time into dog training school, or like animal training centers, or just animal sanctuaries or in the community, or bird sanctuary, something like that. So there's that divine parallel as well too. So I was just using some abstract examples. So yeah, I'm going to read this dream here from Jess. Okay. Okay. All right. I've read the dream. Malia, do you want Jess to call in, and then maybe I'll have her read the dream again, and I'll ask her some questions. So I'm ready for Jess to call in. Thank you. Hey, how's it going, Jess? Okay, yeah, I just read it briefly, but maybe just this is one of the things I like to do when I'm at my fairs and events or calls or stuff, is usually I'll listen to a dream or read it, and then I'll have the person reiterate it again. So can you reiterate and tell me back to me one more time the dream that I just read? Oh gosh. Yeah. Wow. Okay. There's a lot of really interesting things to unpack there. Did you see any colors at all, or was it just very dim? Sure. Did the turkey vulture and the crow, were they just more of like black and brownish or whatever? Or what colors were they? Okay. Yeah. Yeah, for sure. So there is a turkey vulture, a crow, and another eagle were attacking another eagle. So there's three creatures ganging up on one. Yeah. Okay. All right. So this is what I believe your higher power is saying to you, Jess. So your most dreams, we go over these dreams, um, excuse me, are speaking as like a self-conditioning dream. So I'd say like 95% of dreams, over 95% dreams are about what God or what the creator or higher power is saying to you and I. And so I think that this is an exhortation and inspiration of, I think, your seer realm gift. We were talking about that earlier before. So like seeing in the spirit, and really just seeing dreams, and being a revelatory person. And I believe that there are three different dimensions or areas in life that I think are intimidated or threatened by the gift that you carry. Because I think that eagle in the sky is really a picture of your gift, that others are trying to attack. So I think I'll just unpackage it here. So a vulture, what is a vulture a picture? Well, a vulture tries to prey on things. A crow tries to usually pick up the garbage or shiny things, and then other eagles are other eagles that can also soar above the sunshine and fly directly into the light, and they can also see from a higher vantage point. So I think these three creatures speak of three different areas. So I think, you've got three different areas of people. You've got people who just are vulture like people that just want to suck the time, energy, and life from you. And then there's the crows, are the ones that are really, they have they have ill intent and they want to really go after your gift, and so they go right after the jewels, so to speak. And then, of course, other eagles could be peers, people that are alongside, and they just are intimidated by the gift. So I think there's a significant seer eagle realm gift in your life, and I think your higher powers encouraging you, that there are different people with different who are different areas of life that are intimidated by what you walking into. And I think it's an inspiration from your higher power to continually build up your seer realm gift, and to continue to nurture it as well too, and also to be aware that there'll be different types of people that will try and vie for your gift, and that just to be aware of that, specifically obviously the vulture like people who try to drain your time and energy. They may have good intentions, but they're just really draining, then you've got the crows, people who have ill intent. Obviously they're more easier to spot. And then you've got other eagles, which are probably the more difficult ones to spot, who are could be in the inner circle that are alongside, but they're all united on a front to try and take this gift away from you. But I think as you're growing in your spiritual walk, you're just becoming aware of even more so this gift that you carry. And I think it's really important to you. Hence, obviously the emotion and everything of just seeing this under attack. So I'm not really sure if in your family lineage or your generational lineage that you have other people in your family that dream a lot or see a lot in the spirit or have a lot of spiritual things happen. But I think there's a real like seeing eagle gifting on your family line. And I think that there are obviously other powers that be that would want to try and attack and take it away. But I think there's when obviously there comes those moments of testing. We talked about the pearl earlier in my message today, the pearl of great price. There's a building of the gift, and I think there's a rebirth. So even though the eagle died, I think as you're growing in the spirit and as your gift is growing, there's new life that's coming afterwards, and it's kind of a dual front. You're becoming more aware of the powers that be that are going to try and take advantage of this gift, but you're also growing into another dimension. So it's not completely it's not bad news at all, even though it looks like it's bad news of the eagle dying. But actually there's new life coming afterwards, and it's and you're going through that those testing, that time, and it may feel difficult, but I think there's something beautiful coming on the other end. So Jessica, that's what I see. I could be completely accurate or completely off the mark, but I wanted to check with you to see how that sat with you. Yeah. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, does that make sense with the three different categories? Because I felt like they were personality types of people, or maybe organizations, or just like happenings or events. But I really felt that they were distinguished, because we ask ourselves in dream interpretation, why a vulture and not like a seagull? Why a crow and not like a whatever? Right? You just fill in the blanks, right? Yeah, there could be. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. And as I always like to say, like usually when I'm on a dream team and I've got people with me, we have different layers of the onion that we unpeel. So, mine obviously is one perspective, and somebody else can have another. Like that's what's amazing about dreams, is like I still, still keep my journal. You have a journal, right? Yeah, so there's like amazing layers to a dream. Like I can go back to a dream that I had 10 or 15 years prior and get something completely different than I had the time before. So this is just the Caleb layer, but that's what I see there. And I think it's a rebirth, like unless a seed goes into a ground and dies, it can't produce more fruit. So I think you're in a rebirth and a renewing of your seeing gift, but also as well comes the awareness of the other powers that might be that would try and stop your gift. So that's what I see, Jess, and that's what I think is coming down your path and your way. So as I like to say to all my listeners that are listening, and for yourself, Jess, chew on the meat, spit out the bones. So that's just my perspective, and that's always what I like to say. So For sure. Thank you. Okay. So listeners, that was cool. Jess had a really funky, awesome dream. I always like those bite-sized popcorn ones there because there's so much to unpack. So we've got about 8 minutes left. So is there any other callers or anyone out there that want to share a short dream like Jess did? Please let Leah know, and she'll let me know in the chat, or we can have a caller stand by and call in. So we've got another 7 or 8 minutes for callers. I'm going to keep talking for the next few minutes if we don't, but we are opening the lines for some dream interpretation, just because this is what we love. This is what I love. Obviously, I love talking, I love speaking, I love inspiring, but dream interpretation is really something I just absolutely adore. It's like precious metal, precious gold, precious pearls. So we'll leave the lines open there for a few more minutes, but I can get into talking a little bit more about unpackaging more about what Jess's dream was saying, but also really the principles of what I was doing there within dream interpretation. So with dream interpretation, there's always so many details that we can get caught up in, but it's really the main picture, stepping back and seeing the main picture. And so really the main focus for Jess was this eagle that died, and she watched it fall to the ground, and these other animals tried to come attack. Tried coming and attacking this eagle. And really there's this kind of this gang mentality of these three creatures that were coming, but they each had their own characteristics: the vulture, the crow, the eagle, and they all represent different facets, different people types or organizations, or as Jess was saying earlier, it could be parts of herself as well too. But for me, I felt like it was 3 different people types or event types or circumstances that would try and rob her gift. So that is what I saw there. So really just a lot to unpackage in these dreams, and we ask ourselves, what is this a picture of? What is going on? What is being said to us through the dream from our higher power, from the creator, from just the creator of life, from God, and what's being said to us. We've got 3 minutes till the end. So I think what we're going to do, excuse me there, it's a little bit dusty in the room here. So 3 minutes till the end. Since we've got no more callers here, I'm going to do just a prayer here for you and bless you at the end, and really just get this message home. So I bless you in the name of Kadosh Ruah Yah, the holy breath of God, the creator that comes from on high, the spirit of life, the spirit of wisdom, the spirit of counsel and understanding, to bless your eyes and your ears to be able to see and to hear and to sense the realm of heaven, that your dreams would be like a Jacob's ladder going up and down, that there would be a reaping from the sowing of the heavenly gifts in the spiritual realm into your dream life, into your visionary life, into your eyes, into your ears, into your senses, that there just be an overshadowing of the spirit of life, of the spirit of wisdom, the spirit of counsel, really just to settle in and make its home in you, and that the principles of sowing and reaping would come, and that you would be able to benefit and flourish and triumph in those areas of giving yourself to character, giving yourself to the tough times, giving yourself to the character development, giving yourself to just everything that's going on in those moments, and that you would be able to triumph and walk in life and walk and flourish with your creator in reaping those moments. So I bless you in the name of Yeshua HaMashiach, in the name of Olam, El Olam, the breath and the life of the ancient one of God, in the name of Jesus. Amen. Sow and reap and sow. So thank you, listeners, and I'll see you next time. Caleb Matthews and Encompassed by Dreams. Thank you so much to Colette, my friend, for having me on the show. Thank you to Kim Hunt. Thank you to Dr. Pat, and thank you for the Transformation Talk Radio for having me on. I love coming on the show. So see you next time, guys.
You've been listening to The Truth is Funny, Shift Happens, with Colette Marie Stefan, gracing the airwaves every Wednesdays at 8 a.m. Pacific since 2013. And we're live on Facebook, providing nuggets of wisdom from her book, The Truth is Funny, and 3-card consultations from Tales of the Vector Oracle. Colette has poured 14 years of energetic upgrades into this deck, and we can all predict what will happen if you continue in your wanton ways. Check out how you can become an official modern-day dragon sayer by visiting thetruthisfunny.com. Energetic upgrades to lift you, shift you, and power you to ride the wave of infinite potential. You are a blank canvas. May as well paint a rainbow. We'd love to hear from you. Call in next week. 1-800-930-2819.